President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met on Monday, making Bibi the first world leader to visit since Trump's barrage of tariffs. Israel did see a 17% tariff tacked onto its imported goods. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump said he plans on talking directly to Iran over its nuclear weapons program. POTUS withheld specifics, but according to The Hill, Israel wants the U.S. to okay military operations to eliminate Iran's nuclear facilities. Talks are set for Saturday. Now, Trump also said the U.S. is looking at another ceasefire in Gaza, including getting more hostages released. Netanyahu remained relatively mum about that.
This follows a ramp-up in Israel's military activity, which restarted last month amid the breakdown of the ceasefire with Hamas. It had been in place since January 19th. Joining us now to tell us what's next is Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. Welcome, Trita.
Thank you.
So what should we expect out of these talks between Trump and Iran? I know there are going to be a lot of people watching this show who certainly hope that cooler heads will prevail and that we will not get bogged down in military action with Iran. Unfortunately, it seems to be the case that that is exactly what Israel's leadership is pushing Trump to do. Trump has proven, I would argue, more so even than Biden, at being somewhat resistant to everything Israel wants, but he is a person who changes his mind periodically, and there's not a tremendous amount of stability in the policy. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I agree with you in the sense that this is what the Israelis are pushing for and what they have pushed for more than 20 years, particularly Netanyahu. But I think if you look at the four issues that were on the agenda for this conversation between Trump and Netanyahu, only three of them were in play. There were four of them. One was Turkey, one was Iran, one was tariffs, the other one was Gaza. Gaza was never in play. There was no expectation that there would have been any major changes to that policy, and essentially nothing happened that would be negative for Netanyahu on that front. But on all other issues, from Turkey to Iran to tariffs, Netanyahu walked home completely empty-handed. He did not manage to get Trump to take his side against Erdogan, nor did he lift the tariffs or even make a hint that would be forthcoming. And on Iran, even though I agree with you fully, this is not fully set yet. They could still go in the wrong direction. The fact that there will be talks, indirect or direct, on Saturday with Iran's foreign minister and Witkoff there is an indication that things are moving in the direction of some sort of an agreement and not military action. Still no guarantee. Netanyahu would have preferred that Trump would have said, I want to see the Libya model implemented on Iran, meaning that instead of having a verification-based solution that would limit Iran's program and then verify it and inspect it and make sure they're not moving towards military weapons, the Israelis wanted the dismantlement of it. And in a video message later on, Netanyahu said that he essentially means that the U.S. should bomb the program, destroy it, similar to what was done in Libya. The very idea that you would sell a Libya model as if that in any way, shape, or form would be attractive to the other side, whether it's the Iranians or anyone else, is ludicrous, obviously, given what happened to Gaddafi afterwards. It's like if the Iranians were saying, we're looking for the Munich model for the United States. It would be dead beyond arrival. But that does not appear to be the direction that Trump is going. The fact that he is letting Witkoff lead these negotiations, and Witkoff have explicitly talked about a verification-based model. He did that in his interview with Tucker. I personally believe that we would not even have gotten to indirect talks if Trump had not essentially agreed that there would be more of a verification style of an approach there, because the Iranians would not even come to the table if the agenda was Libya, if the agenda was to dismantle their missile program, and things that the Iranians have not agreed to include on the agenda. So I think so far the direction we're heading is towards some sort of a diplomatic solution. It's still a very long way. It's still very, very complicated, but it's definitely not the direction that Netanyahu wanted to go.
I think it's very good news, actually, that we have in Trump someone who's not going to do something just because Bibi Netanyahu says that he should do it. So I think that's a good thing. As far as the conversation with Witkoff and the Iranian official, isn't this idea of a verification model, isn't this basically just going back to what the original Iran deal was that John Kerry did for Obama?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
That
it
is
was
exactly what the JCPOA was. It was based on verification and inspections. Now, the Trump team might be able to get greater restrictions and perhaps certain aspects of the deal that would expire in 5 years. They may be able to push it for 10 years, and they will make the claim, which is not entirely wrong in that scenario, that they got a stronger deal. But it is, at the end of the day, a deal that it will be based on the same principles as the JCPOA. Now, because Trump walked out of the deal, the Iranian nuclear program has advanced significantly, which means that it's going to be more difficult to bring it back to where it was under the JCPOA. But here's where Trump actually has a card that he's willing to play, I believe, whereas Biden was certainly not willing to play it, which is to get more, you have to offer more. What could the US offer more? The US could offer more sanctions relief in terms of actually lifting the primary sanctions that the US has imposed on Iran. Those are the sanctions that were targeting American companies and preventing American companies from doing business with Iranian companies or being present in Iran. The JCPOA, the deal Obama did, only lifted the secondary sanctions. Those are the sanctions that we imposed on European, Latin American, Russian, Chinese companies for doing business with Iran. So we essentially allowed them to go into the Iranian market, but not American companies. From Trump's worldview, that is just the wrong way of doing things because he views sanctions as a punishment of American companies. So I think he's willing to put that on the table, and that could actually get him to get greater concessions from the Iranian side, which may end up delivering a deal that, and overall, may be stricter than what the JCPOA was.
This is so insane, though, because on one hand, it was Trump who took us out of the nuclear deal. He put on the maximum pressure. So what you're saying is he might then take that back and then he'll claim a victory. It is still a defeat because, as you said, Iran has made so much progress on their nuclear.
There was somebody president for 4 years in between there, Marianne, who
I'm not
fixed
saying
the problem
anything,
and didn't accomplish anything,
and
whose party and ideological base has no desire to accomplish anything.
You guys have come up with this way of making anything.
Right.
And when you're in a corner, you'll say, "What about Biden? Wow. Biden is not president anymore." Okay, we are talking about Trump, and none of us think that the Iranians are fools, and none of us thinks that they're not tough. So it'll be fascinating to see how they respond to Witkoff. I want to ask you one other question, if I might, though, Trita, and that is, you probably saw Ken Klippenstein this morning had an article that is echoing a lot of themes going around these days. He said Pete Hegseth is preparing for the Pentagon needs to be prepared for Trump going berserk. Whether it has to do with Iran, whether it has to do with China, is it your sense that Trump, even though some people thought they were electing the peace president, is already indicating his willingness to go military in places that perhaps certainly that Biden would not have, but that people such as yourself are now concerned about?
I'm very much concerned about what he is doing in Yemen. I think that is completely wrong. I think it's illegal. He does not have congressional authority to do this. Biden did the same thing. We have to be clear about that. I think Trump may have added additional weaponry used, etc., but it's an issue of scale rather than complete changed approach. I do fear that this can trap the United States in a war in the region, particularly if some of the reporting that has come out, and I don't know if it's true or not, that there's some consideration for using ground troops in Yemen. I think that would be a huge mistake and completely contrary to U.S. interests. So I think those things are highly problematic, but I think we also have to be fair and recognize that in many of these different situations, Trump is accelerating a direction that was already set before he came in. Biden is the one who started bombing the Houthis extensively during the last year and a half of his presidency because of what they were doing in the Red Sea, which they were doing to get a ceasefire in Gaza. And whenever there was a ceasefire in Gaza, they stopped attacking ships. So if our goal was to get the Houthis to stop attacking the ships, the ceasefire was the best way to go. And Biden did not go that direction. But he did increase the bombings, and now Trump has taken the same thing and done it even more. Even when it comes to Gaza, some of the things that Trump is doing right now, I think, is highly problematic. And he talked about using Gaza for some sort of a beach resort or moving the Palestinians or ethnically cleansing Palestine and pushing them into Jordan or Egypt is beyond illegality and the immorality of it. Nevertheless, something that Biden also was toying with, because he actually tasked the USAID in November 2023 to do a feasibility study to move all Palestinians from Gaza into the Sinai Desert. So I think in many cases, what we've seen is that Trump is an accelerator of existing policy rather than someone that has actually changed the direction. I wish he would change the direction on these things rather than accelerate it.
Trump should listen to the conservative MAGA America First based on this. People like Tucker Carlson, who tweeted yesterday that war with Iran would be the most catastrophic, stupid thing we could do, that we can't afford it. Thousands of Americans would die. This is suicidal. You know, anyone advocating for this conflict with Iran is an enemy of the United States. That is a strain of thought on the right that Trump pays some attention to, and I would advise him to listen to in this policy area. Trita Parsi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Next up, the Supreme Court has handed Trump 2 legal victories we will discuss. Stay with us.